Welcome to the third of our sermon series, Inside Out, How Are You Feeling? I am Deacon Sarah Wickett. The emotion I will reflect upon today is anger. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. This rhyme was frequently quoted to me by adults as I grew up. It didn't help much. It actually made me angry. I think it was nonsense because in my experience, angry words had the power to hurt my feelings. Anger can hurt our bodies, minds, and feelings. A few years ago, I went on a long train trip with my family from Bournemouth to Wigan. We'd booked our tickets in advance and felt very pleased that we had seats around a table. Halfway through the journey, the relative calm inside the train carriage was disturbed. A noisy crowd of people got on. They wore kit colours of their football team that they supported. We heard from their very loud conversation that their team had just lost the match which they had watched. The noise level rose, with many of the fans, children and adults, shouting and chanting. Swearing and obscenities were used to abuse the referee, who had not made decisions in their team's favour. When they were exhausted about shouting about the referee, the football fans' anger turned towards the other passengers, including my family on the train. The fans made sexist, racist, and obscene comments. The crowd of angry football fans dominated the train, physically sprawling over seats and leaning over passengers. Their anger seemed to grow, as if they were feeding off one another's emotions. It felt like they wanted a fight, and someone, anyone, to vent all their anger onto. So what about you? What makes you angry? Your team losing a football match? People cutting you up when you're driving? No parking spaces left in town? The shopper ahead of you getting the last loaf of bread? No online grocery slots? The struggle of home working? Homeschooling? Other people letting you down when they break their promises? No holiday properties left to book? This pandemic? Anger is an emotion we experience, especially if we perceive that things are not fair for ourselves or not fair for other people. The question is, how might we express anger? What do we do with this anger that wells up within us? In the Bible story of the woman caught in adultery, in John chapter 8, some of the Jewish leaders were angry with Jesus. Jesus had grown in popularity with the crowds. He had made people better. He had shown compassion for people whom society normally marginalised. And he had told them that God's love was for everyone. People chatted. People wondered if Jesus might be the Messiah, God's chosen one, whom the prophets in the ancient scriptures said would come and rescue them. Pharisees and scribes held the delicate balance of exercising authority in first century Palestine under the occupation of the Romans. If the people believed in Jesus, there might be unrest and a change of status quo, resulting in them losing their authority. Pharisees and scribes sent the temple police to arrest Jesus. But when the police heard Jesus speak about God, they decided not to arrest him. Imagine how angry these Pharisees and scribes felt. They simply weren't getting their own way. So they plotted and schemed to come up with a plan to catch Jesus out. They vented their anger on a woman who was caught in the act of adultery. They brought her into a very public place in the temple where Jesus was teaching. The Pharisees and scribes tested Jesus in the knowledge of the law of Moses. From Deuteronomy chapter 22, it says, "If a man is caught lying with the wife of another man, both of them shall die, the man who lay with the woman as well as the woman." They knew if Jesus upheld the law, he would be in trouble with the Roman authorities, because Jewish authorities were not permitted to give a death penalty sentence. They knew if Jesus didn't uphold the law of Moses, he would lose his popularity with the crowds who followed and loved him. The Pharisees and scribes fired question after question at Jesus. I imagine their anger dominated the temple. I imagine some of the people in the temple seized the opportunity to pick up a stone, ready to throw it in anger, to be part of the angry plan, pass judgment, and stone the woman to death. Please don't throw the stone. Being on the receiving end of other people's anger is unpleasant, particularly if you haven't done anything wrong. In the train carriage, I wanted the football fans to stop. My daughters were upset. Other passengers were very uncomfortable. My husband was angry and asked them to stop, but received verbal abuse back. My husband was angry that the guard was not around. And inside, I was particularly angry that our train trip had been disturbed. I was angry that my children were witnessing the fans' behaviour. I was angry that young children amongst the football fans joined in the chanting as if this was normal, acceptable behaviour. The football fans' anger was threatening. Their words and behaviour showed no respect to anyone who was not a fan. Their words demeaned, humiliated, and devalued human life. I did not want to be part of this angry environment. I did not want my family to be in this angry environment. And yet, to retaliate back in anger did not seem to me to be the right answer. I didn't want to let my anger out by having a stand-up row with angry football fans. I sat, thought, and desperately prayed about what I could do with my anger. I thought about the letter Paul wrote to the Christians in Ephesus when he encouraged them not to be overwhelmed by anger. Importantly, in the heat of the moment, I needed time to find a way forward. And it says in Ephesians chapter 4, "Go ahead and be angry. You do well to be angry, but don't use your anger as fuel for revenge, and don't stay angry." Let's return to the Bible story of the woman brought into the temple. I wonder, did anything strike you? What makes me angry is, where was the guilty man? We might wince today in 21st century Britain at the thought of adultery being punished by death. But the law of Moses stated both the man and the woman should die. Where was the man? It strikes me that arbitrary justice was being meted out. The woman was being used in a game of political entrapment of Jesus. I wonder what the woman felt. I think she felt humiliated as she stood surrounded by angry people. I think she must have been terrified at the prospect of imminent death. I wonder what Jesus thought. Jesus initially said nothing, but he drew attention away from her. He bent down and wrote with his finger in the ground. We don't know how long he did this, but I think he used the time to pray. Jesus eventually faced the anger of the Pharisees and scribes and others with an invitation for them to examine themselves before they took their anger out on the woman. Let anyone who is among you, who is without sin, be the first to throw a stone at her. Jesus didn't let anger destroy a life. He offered a different way. He offered a way of mercy and forgiveness. He offered a way in which stones are left on the ground and life is embraced. So when we say the Lord's Prayer, let's remember that just as God forgives us, we are called to forgive others too. Leave the stone. Back on that noisy, anger-filled train carriage, a possible solution eventually came to me. I prayed for courage. I got up. I walked through the carriage and football fans while my husband looked after our girls. I looked for the guard and found that he was, like me, equally shook up by the experience. He told me he'd rung for the railway police. I asked for a safe place on the train. We agreed a plan. I went back to the carriage. Very quietly, I asked my family and the other non-football fan passengers to follow me. We walked slowly through the fans, through the carriage, to the first-class carriage. We chose to walk away from anger. We chose to find a safe haven for the rest of our journey. The guard then locked us in the first-class carriage for our own safety. 40 minutes later, the transport police arrived on the train and stayed with the football fans until they reached their station. Back in the temple, Jesus challenged those ready to throw a stone at the woman to stop, think, and control their potential angry action. I wonder what they thought about. I wonder what made them put down the stones. They chose to walk away from this angry, tense situation in the temple, leaving Jesus facing the woman. In John chapter 3, Jesus' purpose is described as not condemning people, but saving them. Indeed, God did not send the Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. He physically saved this woman from an angry mob and imminent death. But Jesus then offered her so much more. Jesus, as God, knew all about her strengths and her weaknesses. He knew her faults and her mistakes. Jesus, the only person without fault, did not pick up a stone, but instead offered a different way forward. An opportunity for the woman to receive forgiveness from God. An opportunity for her to make a fresh start and live differently. And finally, I wrote to the football club to ask if they issued any guidelines to their fans about travelling to matches. Their angry behaviour and language did not give me a positive image of football culture. The football club replied, "It's nothing to do with them." In contrast to the football club, we are everything to do with God. God cares deeply about us. God cares about us when anger impacts our well-being and impacts others. So next time we are angry, we might find it helpful to ask ourselves what is causing our anger. If it is because we can't get what we want, then perhaps we need to stop and ask ourselves, is this really how we want to be? Life based on me, me, me? God invites us to find a new perspective in which working for the good of our community shapes what we do. A life based on us, us, us. If our anger is because we see injustice in the world, then perhaps we need to stop and ask ourselves what might be an appropriate response. How might we join in God's ongoing work of saving lives? How might our words and actions challenge and seek to bring about a fairer world? Jesus, in the story we have reflected upon, creatively drew on the ground. A few streets from my house, people have found a more peaceful use for stones. They've painted them. And here's mine. And they've put them on the lockdown snake. And there is an invitation to everyone to make this lockdown snake of stones to grow. The way we live can give a positive image of people who follow Jesus. Let's think carefully about our inner anger and not let it turn into stone-like throwing destructive rage. Let's channel our anger appropriately to find solutions to problems and to strive for a fairer world. A world in which mercy, forgiveness, and a transformed life is a way forward.